Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future videos. Today we're going to explore something incredible, the entire history of aviation. From humanity's earliest dreams of flying to the powerful airplanes we see in the skies today, aviation has come a long way. So sit back, relax, and let's take a journey through the fascinating story of flight. Imagine living in a world where humans could never fly. No airplanes, no holidays across the ocean, no packages arriving overnight, no satellites launched into space. Just a sky that humans could only look at, but never enter. It sounds strange today, but for most of human history, this was reality. For thousands of years, flight was humanity's ultimate dream. Ancient civilizations watched birds glide effortlessly through the sky and wondered why they could fly while we could not. But one simple question kept returning: what if humans could learn to fly too? Today, more than 100,000 flights take off every single day across the world. That means every second, somewhere on Earth, a plane is lifting into the sky. But how did we go from watching birds to flying faster than sound? The story of aviation is full of brilliant inventors, daring pilots, world-changing wars, massive failures, and a few moments that completely changed human history. And surprisingly, it almost never happened. Today, we're exploring the entire history of aviation. Long before airplanes existed, humans were obsessed with the idea of flying. In fact, some of the oldest stories ever told involve flight. One famous example comes from Greek mythology, the story of Icarus and Daedalus. According to the myth, Daedalus built wings made from feathers and wax so he and his son could escape captivity. But Icarus ignored a warning. He flew too close to the sun. The wax melted, and he fell from the sky. The message was clear. Flying was dangerous, maybe even impossible. But humans are very good at ignoring impossible. And someone, somewhere, was always willing to try. Around 400 BC, Chinese inventors created something simple, yet revolutionary: kites. They were the first human-made objects capable of controlled flight. That might not sound impressive today, but at the time, it proved something extraordinary. Air itself could lift objects off the ground. That single idea would eventually change the world. But understanding how air creates lift, that took centuries. One of the first people to seriously study it was Leonardo da Vinci. In the late 1400s, he sketched flying machines that look shockingly similar to modern aircraft: helicopters, gliders, wing designs. Some of them were centuries ahead of their time. There was just one problem. None of them could actually be built yet. The materials didn't exist, the engines didn't exist, and the physics of flight wasn't fully understood. Human flight would have to wait, and it would wait, for nearly 400 more years. The next major breakthrough arrived in the 1700s, but it didn't look anything like an airplane. It was a balloon. In 1783, two French brothers, Joseph Michel Montgolfier and Jacques-Étienne Montgolfier, built the first successful hot air balloon. Their invention worked using a very simple principle: hot air rises. When heated air filled a giant fabric balloon, something incredible happened. It lifted off the ground. For the first time in human history, people were flying. Imagine seeing that in the 1700s, a giant floating balloon slowly rising into the sky with humans inside it. Crowds gathered everywhere to watch, but there was a problem. Actually, a very big problem. You couldn't steer it. Wherever the wind went, the balloon followed. It was like driving a car with no steering wheel. Still amazing, but not exactly practical transportation. Humanity still needed something better, something controlled, something powerful, something that could truly fly. And that breakthrough would come from a very unexpected place: a bicycle shop. In the late 1800s, many inventors were trying to solve powered flight. But two brothers from Ohio would finally succeed. Meet Wilbur Wright and Orville Wright. They weren't famous scientists. They weren't wealthy engineers. They were bicycle mechanics. But they noticed something that others overlooked. Flying wasn't just about power. It was about control. Think about riding a bike. Balance matters more than speed. The Wright brothers realized airplanes worked the same way. After years of experiments with gliders and homemade wind tunnels, they built a strange-looking aircraft, the Wright Flyer. And on December 17, 1903, something incredible happened. In Kitty Hawk, the plane lifted off the ground for 12 seconds. Just 12 seconds. It traveled only 120 feet. Today, that's shorter than a football field. But those 12 seconds changed human history forever. Because from that moment on, humans could fly. And once that door opened, everything accelerated. Inventors everywhere began building aircraft. Some worked, many crashed. But progress was happening fast. Just 6 years later, in 1909, a French pilot achieved something incredible. Louis Blériot flew an airplane across the English Channel for the first time ever. An airplane connected two countries. Suddenly, the world felt smaller. Airplanes were no longer experiments. They were becoming real transportation. But the biggest boost to aviation came from something far darker: war. When World War I began, airplanes were still new technology. At first, they were used simply to observe enemy movements. But pilots quickly realized something. If you could see the enemy from the air, you could also attack them. Soon, pilots began carrying weapons, and eventually, they started fighting each other in the sky. This created a completely new type of combat. Planes became faster, more powerful, and far more dangerous. Fighter pilots became legends. One of the most famous was Manfred von Richthofen, better known as the Red Baron. By the end of the war, aircraft technology had advanced dramatically, and when the war ended, that technology didn't disappear. It moved into civilian life. The age of passenger aviation was beginning. The 1920s and 1930s became known as the golden age of aviation. Flying was exciting. Daring pilots attempted record-breaking journeys, and the entire world watched. One of the most famous flights happened in 1927. Pilot Charles Lindbergh took off from New York City. His destination? Paris. His plane was called the Spirit of St. Louis, and he was flying alone across the entire Atlantic Ocean. The flight lasted 33 hours. When he landed, crowds of over 100,000 people greeted him. It became one of the most famous flights in history. Airplanes were no longer just machines. They were symbols of progress. But soon, aviation would face its biggest test yet: another world war. When World War II began, aircraft became one of the most important weapons of war. Entire battles were fought in the sky. Aircraft like the Supermarine Spitfire defended Britain. Bombers like the Boeing B-17 Flying Fortress flew dangerous missions across Europe. But one invention from this era would change aviation forever: the jet engine. Jets could fly faster, higher, and farther than propeller planes. And when the war ended, the world entered a completely new era of flight: the jet age. Passenger aircraft became dramatically faster. In the 1950s, planes like the Boeing 707 revolutionized travel. Suddenly, flying across continents became normal. But one aircraft would change global travel forever: the Boeing 747. Introduced in 1969, it could carry hundreds of passengers. Air travel became affordable for millions. The world became smaller than ever before. But engineers weren't done pushing limits, not even close. In 1947, test pilot Chuck Yeager did something many believed impossible. Flying the Bell X-1, he broke the sound barrier. He flew faster than sound itself. This breakthrough eventually led to the legendary Concorde, a passenger plane capable of flying from London to New York City in just 3 hours, twice as fast as normal airliners. But even revolutionary aircraft can disappear. In 2003, the Concorde was retired. Still, it remains one of the most iconic planes ever built. Today, aviation is one of the most important industries on Earth. Companies like Boeing and Airbus build massive aircraft used all over the world. Some planes, like the Airbus A380, can carry over 800 passengers. But the next revolution in flight is already beginning. Electric aircraft, autonomous planes, and even commercial space travel. Companies like SpaceX are pushing the boundaries of what flight means. In just 120 years, aviation has transformed the world. From a 12-second flight to millions of people flying every single day. And the most incredible part, the story of aviation, is only just getting started. If you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe so you don't miss any future uploads. Thank you for watching.